Deputy Speaker, and it's a great pleasure on this late Monday night to have a chance genuinely to respond to the Honourable Lady for Yorkshire Central and to pay tribute to her advocacy of this project and the wider cause that it embodies, and to take the opportunity to set out my personal support for the aims of the project. She, I know, wouldn't expect me tonight to say that the cheque is in the post or to commit agencies that I can't commit and indeed shouldn't. But I wanted to, in paying tribute to her advocacy, set out what the government is trying to do overall in the area that she's highlighted, to highlight what I think are some of the very powerful powerful elements of this bid, and highlight where I think they may fit into the emerging government landscape. And let me just say, I would first of all be delighted to come and visit as part of a programme of visits that I'm doing around the country. But let me just, in the time we've got available, try and set the scene a little bit. Madam Speaker, it's a great pleasure for me to be here as the newly appointed Minister for Science and Innovation, with the mission to implement the Prime Minister's vision of a science superpower and an innovation nation. And for those who are asking, well, what does that mean? It means that the UK, in an increasingly competitive global world, has to punch above our weight, continue to punch above our weight in science. That means world-class science, science for global good, helping to prevent climate change, helping to feed 9 billion hungry mouths, to use our world-class science to help solve global challenges, which is what the Honourable Lady has been talking about. And the Innovation Nation piece is about not just being good at science, but at building an ecosystem in the UK, indeed making the UK a testbed, a cluster globally for developing those new technologies that will help us harness the renewable power of the sun and the waves, to harness the extraordinary power of bioscience, which is a particular area of interest and expertise of mine, but also importantly, to her point, to make sure that we're not just a nation that has world-class science in the Golden Triangle, but we're using our procurement and our regulatory power to create clusters all around the country of new technologies, creating jobs and opportunities and a more resilient and fairer economy, which is what the government's levelling up mission is ultimately all about. So I want to suggest that this project is speaking to all of those challenges in a very positive and helpful way, and as well as paying tribute to the Honourable Lady's advocacy. I think she raised this with the Prime Minister last Monday. She spoke in the BioYorkshire debate. She's spoken in the Northern England economic support debate, and indeed she's spoken to me personally about this. So nobody could be doing more to promote it. And let me just say that at the recent CSR, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Chancellor set out a really historic package of support for the science and the innovation mission. This country has been spending more in the last 5 years on science, last 10 years, than we have for decades. We've decided to increase that again by 30% over the next 3 years, from 15 billion a year to 20, and recommit to move to 22 billion a year by 27, on the journey to 2.4% of GDP. They're very important strategic commitments that the government's making, long-term commitments. And within BEIS, the Secretary of State and I are looking right now, post-CSR, at where best to deploy those funds for maximum impact in terms of science superpower and innovation nation. And fundamental to the innovation nation piece will be looking to support clusters around the country. And that won't be about sort of trying to move world-class laboratories that are in Cambridge or Oxford to the north. That wouldn't be a sensible thing to do. The Laboratory of Molecular Biology is one of our top laboratories, partly because of where it is. But it does mean making sure that we support clusters around the country that are taking shape, including the Yorkshire cluster, which she has talked about. And the Honourable Lady knows, I think, my personal commitment to the bioeconomy. When I was Minister for Life Science, I was pushing then, 6 years ago, the argument that actually life science should be a broader package of science of life, the bioeconomy, the appliance of bioscience across food, medicine and energy, and looking at how our understanding of biological systems can help tackle global challenges. We have to feed 9 billion mouths, double world food production on the same land area with half as much water and energy. Big challenge. Which country is best equipped in the world to deal with it? This country, because of our agricultural science tradition. And if you put together our digital expertise, our agri-tech, our bioscience, and start to invest in those multidisciplinary sciences, I would suggest that we've got a huge opportunity to make a big global impact around the world. So to me, given a background in agriculture, agri-tech, worked in the seeds industry and having the Norwich Research Park on my doorstep, I look at Farah and the leadership that she's outlined powerfully in precision farming and in agri-tech, and the University of York and the Agricultural College. This is genuinely a cluster of excellence in their field. And I think the bid that they've put together around fuel and chemicals and materials, net zero food and feed and land use is a powerful one. And I think there's very little in it not to be supportive of. And it fits with what we set out in our innovation strategy earlier this summer. The Honourable Lady will know that we've identified 7 technologies of tomorrow that we want to support strategically. 2 of them go right to the heart of this cluster, one in bioengineering and synthetic biology, and one in genomics, including agricultural genomics for drought-resistant crops, disease-resistant crops, and low-carbon farming. And I'd also highlight that we are investing in the Hemp 30 project already through Innovate UK. And in the first half of this year, before returning to government, I led a big piece of work for the Prime Minister looking at how we could use our regulatory freedoms on departure from the EU to support innovation. The Task Force on Innovation, Growth and Regulatory Reform, or, Madam Deputy Speaker, the TIGGR report, if that trips off the tongue more easily, in which we identified 10 sectors where, with very little and no need of primary legislation, very little regulatory leadership, we could unlock billions of investment. And 3 of those sectors go to the heart of this bid. The agri-environment sector and the importance of better science, and the UK leading in the science of sustainability, the metrics of sustainable farming, so we can begin to label food so that consumers can see, well, this apple or this potato, this pint of milk has got a low carbon footprint, low plastic, low water footprint. And it's that labelling that will drive empowered consumers, enlightened consumers. We also set out a series of recommendations about cannabinoid medicines, CBD and industrial hemp as a net zero crop with huge potential, and the broader application of agri-genetics for both net zero agriculture and nutraceuticals, functional foods, and the interaction of food and medicine, agriculture and medicines. So there is very, very good landscape precedent, if I can put it that way, for the space in which this bid is being developed. And it's for that reason as well that I'm delighted to confirm that I would genuinely want to come up. I'm organising a series of regional visits to support clusters, and I would hugely value coming up for a whole day and doing a series of visits around that cluster to help support their development. The Honourable Lady will understand that we have a process internally now for allocating the CSR funds. Huge amount of work going on in my department and others to set out a framework for that and make sure that it's criteria-led. She will understand that having an adjournment debate isn't a sufficient criteria as and of itself for making that decision, but she's made the case very powerfully. I'm pleased to see that the overall sum has come down from what was a very, very big number, which makes it harder to approve. And also, I think these things typically start small and grow, and I think finding a good entry level is key to this project. And also, I would encourage her, as we've already discussed earlier, to make sure that the BDSRC are supporting this. I'm sure they would. I can't commit them, but I can't think why it wouldn't fit well in their overall structure. And similarly, Innovate UK and UKRI. And I think on that basis, it would stand a very good chance, which is, I think, actually, just to correct the record, what the Prime Minister said. I don't think he actually committed to fund this. What he said was, as I've done, that it's a very strong case and one that's quite difficult not to see a lot of merit in. And I would just close by saying, if we are, Madam Deputy Speaker, going to create an innovation nation, yes, that's about strategic investment by government in technologies, in institutes, in buildings, but in the end it's about creating clusters. And clusters, the best definition of a cluster, I would suggest to the House tonight, not packed, I regret to say for this, but perhaps something that she and I and the representative on the government benches to my left can take away and share. For all the academic work on clusters, I would suggest the best definition of a cluster is a low-risk place to move your family to pursue a career in a high-risk sector. The conversation is really, let's move to Cambridge or Oxford or London or Yorkshire because, darling, if this business doesn't work, there are plenty of others. The schools are good, the landscape's good, the quality of life is good. There's a cluster there. And in the end, the cluster comes to normally a mixture of public and private institutions, entrepreneurship, innovation, support, and a shared vision. And I think that's what this bid sets out. And in the end, if we're going to really change the life chances of people around this country, it'll be through that, through creating a different identity, a different sense of what this place is about. And when you look at the institutions in this area, North Yorkshire, traditionally associated with the most beautiful countryside, wonderful tourism, great heritage, wonderful produce. Who wouldn't want to go on holiday to Yorkshire? But not everyone can make a living in tourism. And I think this bid speaks to a bigger, bolder, more global, international, higher value economy for this part of the world, which I, for one, would be keen to support. So I'm sorry I can't announce anything tonight. That's not my place at this point. But I'm delighted to share with her that I would be delighted to come and visit and to continue to work with her and the partners on what looks to me like a very exciting bid for this part of the world.